started, let's just pretend every single one of us was in New York. All our kids were in New York. And our job is to get every single kid to San Francisco by the last day of school. Are they all going to take exactly the same route? I see a lot of heads shaking. No, because not all our kids are the same, right? Wouldn't our job be easy? Be like bowling, just pull down the middle and you hit everybody? It doesn't work that way. We have a bell curve in our classroom. So we need to provide scaffolding strategies to hit the needs of all of our learners, from our striving bottom 10% to our top dogs, top 10%. Language, we're going to hear it all day long. Super important. And the use of language, how we model it, how kids interact with it. Reading aloud, that's modeling. That's part of that oracy. Prosody, the cadence of our voice. Modeling and gestures. When I asked you to teach each other how to change a tire, I said, sit on your hands. Right? Because body gestures, hand gestures are a real visual support. We've learned the importance of intentional grouping, pairing, letting kids dialogue. And we're going to do that all throughout the day. Sentence structure, sentence starters help everyone begin writing incomplete sentences. Not all of them need it. It's necessary for some, good for all. Connecting to their background knowledge, making it relevant. Our kids come from different backgrounds, and so honoring that. We're going to talk about graphic organizers this afternoon. And then I've said a couple of times today how learning goes up, comprehension goes up when we provide visuals. Anybody know what realia is? Yes, what's realia? Any volunteers? Go ahead.
It's like using, like, I don't know if you're talking about a broom, you like to take a broom and show them.
Right, it's real items, right? If we're studying a story about, like I can remember teaching about Lou Gehrig, there's a story in the core curriculum. I brought in a baseball bat, a mitt, a hat, a uniform. That's realia. If we're learning, here's an apple. If we're studying apples, you can bring in all kinds of real apples. That's realia. The power of a smile goes a long way. We want to create a safe learning environment. We want kids up here in frontal lobe thinking. When kids feel threatened or scared, they are back here in fight or flight, and learning is not going to likely occur. Now, sometimes we might get a little nervous, right? Our lid's about right here, like, ooh, this is new, I'm not very confident. But we never want kids here, like flipped. That it's too hard, too much of a struggle. Okay, so safe learning environments get our kids from back here at the brainstem up here to frontal lobe thinking. Smile. Be that safe learning environment. Provide scaffolds, whatever that looks like in your grade content area. Make safe opportunities for linguistic practice and contributions. Y'all have the chatterboxes, right? They talk nonstop. But we want all kids to be talking and be listened to. We're going to talk about breaks and movements some more. Because just like your kids, you can't sit for too long. And after about 10 minutes of me, your brain starts to go. We need to move. Errors are information. I learned this a lot as an instructional coach. And one of my best examples, I was working with a brand new math teacher at Franklin Middle School in Pocatello. And I met with her at the end of the day, and she was very frustrated. And she said, more than half my kids didn't even try on the test. They failed. Let's talk about that. So we laid out the test, and we started looking at the questions and the sections. And pretty soon we saw it's really not that kids didn't try, they all were lacking understanding in the same areas. So is that a kid problem or a teacher problem? The delivery, right, the instruction. So errors or information, that's right where we start teaching. We're keen observers, we're seeing what our kids are doing well and their areas of need. And then monitoring their body language and our body language. And we're only human, right? We have good days, bad days, we have personal things, days we don't feel the best. But if we're not excited, our kids aren't going to be excited. And then in summary, think of Big Sync helps. We don't just want that basic surface level vocabulary and interaction. We want academic language proficiency and giving a lot of opportunities in our classrooms for kids to practice academic language. To our agenda, is there anyone who has not signed the sign-in sheet? Okay. So you can check that off on your agenda. We participated in opening routines. We made a name card. And that has some really important information on it about us. We have round-the-clock partners. We've already met with our 6 o'clock partner. We'll have 3 more appointments throughout the day. We reviewed those acronyms because in education, oh my gosh, if we started typing them up, we have pages, single-spaced of acronyms we use in education. We reflected on what it felt like to possibly be an English learner when we're missing some vocabulary. And then we just took a well-deserved break to stretch our legs and interact a little bit. Lunch is going to be delivered at about 11:45, so that's going to be our next stretch. So it's now just about 10:25. So then we'll take a working lunch. We'll take a 30-minute break. You can go eat, move, and then we'll come back and keep rolling because it's Friday. And as soon as 3 o'clock starts to approach, we're going to be tired and ready to move on to the weekend. Cornell notes in your packet. Will you please take out a blue sheet of paper, a Cornell note template? Looks like this. So when I opened this morning, I asked you to take out your green sheet of paper, structured note-taking, because we know that Cornell notes or structured note-taking is one of the most highly effective teaching and learning strategies. And it doesn't matter the level. We saw that level 1s and 2s may need a little bit of support. But here's an example. This could be a level 1 or a 2, right? It's just notes with TH. This one over here might be a little hard to see in the back. Notes on vocabulary. Here's a secondary example. Notes. There are a lot of formats. I have a sample not in your packet with lines. This one has some lines and some open space. Totally up to you what your preference is. A cue column, a note-taking area, and a summary at the bottom. Cornell notes, we know through research, it is most powerful when we have 1 note-taking page per day per content area. These are our big ideas. So the cue column, overarching understanding, big ideas, big concepts, maybe explicit vocabulary. Then the notes, what's gonna help us remember? Notice this one right here on the nervous system. Here, we've got some graphic supports. Because we know when we have a quick sketch, learning goes up. One page per day, and then you decide how to do it. Per concept. Now, when we introduce a new strategy, it's gonna be model, model, model. But we know printing and paper is expensive. And your kids don't need you to print a template for them. Because with a little bit of practice, they're very capable of drawing this format in a notebook, a binder, a pocket folder, whatever works in your classroom. But when we introduce it, you decide what kind of template you're going to teach the strategy. Anybody already do Cornell Notes in your classroom? On Cornell note taking, I want you to listen for two specific things. One, is it more powerful for students to copy a summary generated by the teacher and write it at the bottom, or is it more powerful for them to write their own? And then I want you to listen for what the research says on longhand versus taking notes on a device. Okay, so listen for those two key things, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
When students take notes, research shows that they often forget what they've written. That's because they typically copy the material verbatim or highlight excessively, resulting in little, if any, recall. In fact, for your students, copying information word for word isn't any better than taking no notes at all. According to a 2018 study, students who took efficient notes using fewer words to express key ideas were more likely to recall the information than students who simply copied the material. That's because traditional note-taking doesn't push students to actively process and reorganize. Here are 3 active note-taking strategies that will improve your students' retention.
You're going to get this template.
Graphic organizers such as T-charts, anchor charts, and concept maps help students organize concepts into different categories, making visible the underlying relationships between them and creating durable learning by connecting prior knowledge to new information. For example, a useful graphic organizer can categorize animals according to their class, such as mammal or insect, or help students fill in the main idea, supporting evidence and examples of the text. In a 2021 study, middle school students who filled in their own graphic organizers to learn about different seasons outperformed their peers by 40% on the test of factual recall and 155% on the test of deeper comprehension.
So go ahead and write these notes down in your interactive journal.
When students use visual note-taking strategies like sketchnoting and drawing, they're more likely to remember the material compared to writing text alone. That's because drawing concepts engages multiple parts of the brain, forcing students to process information visually, aesthetically, and semantically. When students take notes, encourage them to draw what they're learning in parallel. For example, they can create interactive notebooks. One side of their notebook can be used for written notes, the other for drawings, diagrams, and charts.
That's the key point I want you to write down right now if you don't have it. Okay, Kevin.
In a widely cited 2014 study, researchers discovered that taking notes by longhand was superior to taking notes on a laptop. Students taking notes on a laptop were faster typers, but they were more likely to take verbatim notes. When students took slower notes by longhand, they had to put more effort into translating information to keep up. In a 2021 study, students who wrote a short summary of a lesson in their own words scored 34% higher than students who read a summary written by the teacher, and a full 86% higher than the students who simply reviewed the original lesson. Why is summarizing so beneficial? Instead of passively copying everything, it forces students to mentally sift through the information, reorganizing it into a coherent structure while discarding what's irrelevant.
All right, longhand or device? Why? Yeah, okay, so it's slowing them down, right? It's that processing going to long-term memory. Extensive brain research, and we see it, I bet. Kinder, first grade teachers, I was in a migrant preschool a few weeks ago. Half the littles in there could not hold a crayon or a marker. Their fine motor was terrible, but they're expert swipers. That's not what we need. Longhand is important because it goes to long-term memory. When kids are typing, it's kind of like giving them a highlighter. Here, highlight the important parts. And who do they highlight? Almost all of it, right? Yeah. How about the summary? More powerful to copy the teachers or in their own? Their own language. And we saw an 86% gain of kids who wrote a summary versus kids who just reviewed it, who did no writing at all. Because once again, that helps learning go to long-term memory. Now, Cornell note-taking, if we have 1 page per day, it's totally up to you. So last spring, I was in Emily Jones' classroom, high school English teacher in Pocatello, and she had 6 English learners integrated in there, is why I was there. But it was a perfect day. And she said, okay, you have 12 Cornell note pages. Tomorrow's our test. You get to bring 5 into the test, and the other 7 have to stay in your binder. Okay, so that's totally up to you, your autonomy. Do kids get to use it on the test? Do they not? Do they get to take it home as a study guide? Okay, so that's up to you. When you introduce the strategy of Cornell note-taking, there are some fabulous videos on YouTube that you can show kids, and then we're going to model. Because if we just give them a template and say, okay, take notes, we're probably going to crash and burn in a lot of instances. Okay, we want kids to, oh, this is important, put it on your note-taking guide, and then we're going to model for them. Notes are not writing just some key words, right? What's going to help us remember? And then the summary is what we're going to complete every day. That can be a ticket out for you as a teacher. Oh, okay, here's where I know I need to start teaching tomorrow. Or, oh, wow, okay, the kids have this, we can move on. So it's, I do it, we model, then we're going to do note-taking together. And then we're going to turn it over to them. And just like us, we've got a continuum. Some kids are going to get it real quick, and some we may need to support a little bit more and buddy up with learning partners. Cornell note-taking. In your book on page 46, when we rank the 72 strategies, this always falls in the top 3 because it's a great teaching tool and an amazing learning tool. Because the truth of the matter is kids can't remember everything. We want to give them some strategies that they can refer back to. It helps them learn to study, and then promoting student interaction. I can have kids move around and jigsaw with their notes. Because let's say that Amanda is an expert in something, and I've got a striving group, and it's like, Amanda, will you buddy up with this group and share notes? Give one, get one, right? We can interact. We can say, all right, for your summary today, let's everyone write your summary and check each other. Do we have a capital at the beginning? Do we have a complete thought? Do we have punctuation at the end? And kids can interact with that note-taking guide. When we jigsaw, we get kids moving. Because you're going to have some kids that know a lot about the concepts, the content you're teaching, and they can teach others. They can also learn from each other. So we can get them to stay in their group. Or when we ask them to stray, I can say, all right, everyone with glasses, move to a different table. If your birthday's in November, change groups. That's totally up to you. Stray, but interacting, listening, communicating, and learning from each other. Because we always want to make sure we're promoting that student interaction. That's on page 55 in your book. Okay, so I've talked a lot about instructional strategies, so let's dive a little bit deeper into what those exactly are. So instructional strategies, they're generalized. They're teaching techniques that we can use across multiple content areas. Okay, so I can use Cornell note-taking in math, right? We might be studying grams, weight, mass, key vocabulary to put on a note-taking guide. Extensive research that highly effective teachers have a wide array of strategies that they implement in their classrooms. We know that highly effective teachers choose the most effective strategies specific to what you're teaching, your grade level, right? What works in a third grade room may not work right now in a kindergarten room, and that's okay. Doesn't mean you can't use it, we're just going to need some more support. A lot of researchers, so go-to strategies at the beginning of your book. Go-to strategies come from Marzano, Pickering, Pollack. If you've ever taken a Kagan strategies workshop, you'll notice a lot of them are the same. Okay, so there's some researchers for you. Go-to strategies, I would say, is national, but it's truly now international. So your spiral bound book is on the internet. There's a digital copy. And all across the world, your colleagues have created amazing lesson plans and tools that go with the strategy. So before you start creating something, do a Google search, and you'll probably find it. Go-to strategies also is free in the state of Idaho. It's paid for by a grant. So your materials are free to your school district. I'm free to your school district. That's all paid for with grant money. But when you look up those strategies, you're going to see they're used all across the world. As a teacher, those instructional strategies that you decide to use, you're going to think about the age of your students, their proficiency levels, and really important, what's your objective? You need to know specifically what you're trying to teach so the kids trust you to get them there, because if you're a little unsure, kids are going to sense that. And then what kind of learning environment? What's that look like? What does it sound like? So that's all in your control. Additional teacher decisions. How much content are you going to cover? My last year I taught 6th grade was like dream class. Out of that group, there's a neurologist, a NASA engineer, 2 general practice physicians. Like, I don't know, Chubbuck, Idaho that year, it was amazing. Okay, so teacher, I could cover a lot. And then you have other years, it's like, ooh, we gotta go a little slower, right? The kids aren't there yet. That's up to you. Think about what kinds of behaviors you want, what kind of participation you're looking for. Learning procedures. Practice. Model, model, model. Good classroom management. We want to think about what kind of learning products. If I'm assigning an essay, did I provide a model? Here's what an A paragraph looks like. Here's what an A sentence looks like, right? Model. Because oftentimes we say to kids, okay, go right. And we don't always model. I often hear, at this time, I was in Aberdeen about a month ago, and they have a brand new curriculum, and the teacher, and I've heard this before, she said, oh, the new F word, fidelity. To the curriculum. They're taking away our teacher autonomy. But remember, it's back to that systematic, explicit instruction. And it may be tempting to skip something, but usually a scope and sequence is spiral. And if you skip it, that might be the thing that this group of kids really needs. Your teacher autonomy and decision making comes in all of this. And we all have different personalities, and what my classroom may look like and what yours may look like, that's maybe different, and that's okay, that's our personality. So that's where your autonomy comes in, the strategies you're choosing and the delivery. When we did not have standards. Anybody else? Yeah. And I can remember when Ann Fox, who was the superintendent of schools, said the state of Idaho is going to have standards for each content area in every grade level, and we went, what? We don't really think a lot about it, right? But when standards came in and testing accountability was implemented, right? I can get on the school report card and I can check out all your test scores. Any parent can do that. That's why I say you're all responsible for all kids. Gone are the days when the SPED kid goes down the hallway and it's like, oh, not my deal. Well, guess what? They are. They're in your data. So are your kids from poverty. They're in your data. You don't just get it. Just saying. We often limited recess. We cut recess, we cut lunch times. When I taught third grade, we took the kids swimming. They had swimming lessons for 6 weeks. It was amazing. Yeah, I'm old, but you know what? It was so beneficial. And here's what I would say. We eliminated movement, break time, PE time, field trips, and our test scores haven't skyrocketed. Kids. So let's watch this video on the importance of movement, even for us as adults.
Hi, friend. Who wants to do the breathing technique?
One of the things that actually improves the architecture of the brain is movement and physical activity. In this classroom, you can really see the mind-body connection and how both the mindfulness activities and the movement activities allow children to free their brains and be prepared to learn.
Throughout the morning, we'll either stop and do a breathing technique, some kind of mindfulness strategy, or a movement break. Understanding that, one, little kids can't attend for that long or be still for that long. Two, if we do have a certain percentage of kids with toxic stress, they have high amounts of cortisol, and the way to release that is through physical movement.
Cortisol and a fight or flight reaction will make it hard to pay attention to learning.
Very often, practices like movement breaks enable children to get more self-regulated and calmer, and therefore open to a learning experience.
1, 2, exhale.
Many teachers will lead activities themselves. Some will project images using a person on screen who helps take kids through a different movement activity.
First, we are going to do the pretzel.
So you got to do the pretzel. So you breathe in, deep inhale, exhale. Deep inhale, exhale. Basically just to relax them, calm them down.
Next, we are going to play baseball.
Our PE teacher and yoga teacher that we contract with have also taught the teachers different strategies to use. And so you'll see them implementing that throughout the day.
Sometimes you may feel nervous, you may feel a little anxious, you may not know what to do, but you can always stop, take a deep breath, and relax.
This idea of children sitting for long periods of time, they aren't naturally wired to do that. So rather than put them in a position where they have to act out to demonstrate that they need to be able to move, building in movement breaks means that they will get some of the stress relief, some of the energy release that they need in order to be able to get calm again and pay attention to learning.
In fact, physical activity is equally important for adolescents and adults to keep the mind clear, to relieve stress, to be ready to learn.
Alright, will you all stand up, just say your tunes, please? So, 10 and 2 structure, we can lecture, we've got content teaching going on, and then we're gonna just take a brain break. Just get the wiggles out, that's where highly effective teachers are always monitoring, right? You're monitoring body language, you start to see the kid wiggling on the chair, poking their buddy. Okay, so let's try the pretzel. So arms out, deep breath in. Put it out, exhale. 2 more on your own. Big inhale. All right, let's pick our knees up. Our backs get tired from sitting. As adults, we are not meant to sit either. We need to move. All right, another great one, self-regulation, butterfly tapping. My husband is ADHD. He's the foot wagger, the tapper, right? He drives me crazy. This is good for our kiddos who need to self-regulate. We can also just stretch our arms, put them out to the side, out in front. Woo! Okay, now stay standing just a minute. Here's another activity for a nice brain break. Amanda, will you come be my partner? So just an idea. So for this, the first one to say 21 is the winner. And that's my objective for today. You have the option when it's your turn to say the next consecutive number or 2. And we like to make it tactile for kids. Okay, so we're engaging them. So I'll start. 1, 2. Your turn. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so that may be too far for kindergarten, right? You may only count to 5. You can mix it up and you can say we're going to count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8. It could be listening skills. The first one to say 21 is the loser today. All right, so you can mix it up with a partner at your table group. Practice this quick brain break going to 21. Tap, tap. All right, so if you see the kids are starting to flip their little, that's a good time to take a brain break. Because we want them back up here in front of low thinking. And it doesn't have to be a big ordeal where you go make a loop around the building or you go take a lap on the track. It can just be stretch, something fun. I love over here they did a tryout. They had 3. Okay, so you can mix it up that way. And now we're gonna go right back to learning. But movement is important and giving kids breaks. Learning goes up. Please open up your books to page 8 and 9. Page 8. In your spiral bound book, page 8. In this book, each of the strategies are tied to one or more of the strategic teaching and learning principles. So you'll see on page 8, the first principle is focusing on academic language, literacy, and vocabulary, linking background knowledge and culture to learning. Number 3, increasing comprehensible input and language output. 4, promoting classroom interaction. And 5, stimulating higher order thinking. If you turn over to page 9, it just goes, finishes up on those principles. So I want you to just think for a minute of these 5 principles. Which one do you value the most, or is most important in your classroom? Maybe it's the one that comes easiest to you. You don't even really think about it in your classroom. You just do it. Important, and you want to work on it. Post-it note. I want you to choose one of the principles, and I want you to just write one sentence of why you think that principle is important. Choose one principle and write on it, post-it, why you value that principle most. poster of the principal you chose, put your post-it up there and stay.
Wait, stay by the poster?
Stay by the poster. awesome. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to work around each of the 5 principles. The very important thing to know, this is not a hierarchy. It's not number 1 is most important. It's just the foundational principles that the strategies are built on for teaching and learning. So I'd like our spokespeople to just share out some aha, and if more than one person shares, that's okay too. All right, let's start with number 1, academic language, literacy, and vocabulary.
Okay, in our group, we've got our ELL teacher, we've got our interventionist, and we've got a kindergarten teacher. And really this is the basic of all of these, that in order for the students to grasp what we're doing, it's the basics of being explicit and to start where their learning is, depending on what their language is, what their vocabulary is. We need to start where they're at in order to build on from there.
Awesome, thank you very much. Let's give her a round. All right, let's go back here to number 2, linking background knowledge and culture to learning.
We have a variety as well, but I feel like as you have those experiences at home or in the classroom, if you can link those.
All right, let's zigzag over to number 3, increase comprehensible input and language output.
All right, I'll see if I can do this. My language alphabet here. We were speaking about how we are focused so heavily on our phonics because we're K2 at the school, right? And that is so important. We also need to make sure that we are giving
gallery walk, but we have 5 posters for our activity today. This is a great opportunity to hit all 4 language domains. Did we listen? Did we? Was there reading and writing? Yeah, don't tell me you don't have time to write. We wrote on one quick post-it note a sentence, and then we shared it. Okay, so a lot of interaction from that. Now you may return to your seats. Into our spiral bound page teacher in Sugar Salem School District, and she was introducing this strategy to her English learner class, and they were just talking about pizza. And the kids had to write one sentence, what's your favorite pizza and why? Now here's the thing, we need to teach students to respectfully agree and disagree. So you might have kids, oh that's stupid, that's dumb, that pizza sucks. No, we're gonna be respectful, but just teaching the strategy so you can have combination, cheese, Hawaiian, and pepperoni. What's your favorite and why? And we're just simply introducing and teaching the strategy. Page 31 is where this is, and then this strategy dovetails beautifully with another strategy called Paraphrase Passport. So that's what we did when I asked your spokesperson to share out just some key ideas. And I said more than one is welcome to share. But we're getting kids to listen to each other, you listen to your colleagues. And then you were prepared because I said, okay, I want a spokesperson to share out key ideas. Then you paraphrase what you talked about. Okay, so we're getting listening, speaking, and then the reading and writing we did with our Post-it notes. Paraphrase Passport, we want all kids engaged. And if they have a model, let's say we pair up a higher average with a lower average, we've got some modeling there, right? And we can select students, okay, I want everyone with a November birthday, or if you're wearing sandals, tennis shoes, whatever you choose, you are going to paraphrase. You might pull sticks out of a jar, or we might strategically, we want Gretchen to talk less, and we want Katie to talk more, right? So be thinking of that. But we're also teaching respect, because we are very much in a culture in social media where people pretty much just say anything without accountability. But they would not usually say that in person, right? And it's okay to disagree. We don't all have to have the same opinion. I love combination pizza, pepperoni not my favorite. You might be different, that's okay. That's what makes the world go round. Paraphrase Passport is on page 35. So another of the highly effective strategies in the book. Next, we're going to shift into the importance of community building. And there are two highly effective strategies that go with this. It also goes back to background. So, when I went to school, I have in my toolbox a hammer, a screwdriver, and some needle nose pliers because I wore a babushka. I was raised on kolachki, moska, dumplings, and pork roast. My grandparents spoke fluent Czechoslovakian. Okay, my background was a little bit different because my family came to Idaho from Czechoslovakia, which is now no longer a country, but they immigrated to Chicago. And then my grandfather enlisted in World War II. He was a Marine, and they ended up in Idaho because he got sent to Idaho to the gun plant. My background was a little bit different. Okay, that's capital. So if we look at the work of Dr. Jeffrey Weirs, awesome websites. He is a tremendous speaker, but he talks about the importance of community building and building capital. So capital can be social capital, the interaction. It can be your, not just money, but your social, your cultural. So I had in prom to write about their favorite trip. And one of the students, her favorite trip was when they traveled to Ingham for her brother's baseball tournament. Well, Ingham is about 15 minutes from Pocatello, and that was her big trip. And then I had an orthopedic surgeon's daughter, because learning to read and having difficulty happens to 33% of kids, no matter who their parents are. And they went to Australia for the summer. Woo, talk about cultural capital differences, right? Ingham, Australia. Vocabulary differences. So as a teacher, honoring those backgrounds and then building the capital so that kids are successful. And that all goes back to speaking capital. The work of Jim Trelease. Jim Trelease says usually the most successful people in this world are the most well-spoken. So, that you have high regard for. Do you know what their 5-paragraph essay looks like? Do you know their reading fluency rate? And if you know them personally, you may know, but let's pick on somebody like Taylor Swift. Anybody ever seen Taylor's 5-paragraph essay? Or a comprehension score? She's very articulate. So Jim Trelease tells us what's most important in a classroom are well-spoken students. Because when it comes to applying for a job, right, our end game is positive, successful adults. That's what we're all striving for. We want them to hold a job and be successful in that and be contributing to society. Well, when it comes to that, someone can help me read the job application, someone can help me fill it out, but when it comes to the interview, it is all on me. Nobody gets to go in and help me with that. So when we do capital, we want our kids talking and have that oracy, that oral language fluency to be successful in this world. Along with that comes a community, building a safe community so that kids feel safe to talk. This morning when I said, oh, I heard laughing, were you making fun of each other? And we're like, no. Right? We kind of got nervous, but we need to coach kids through that. So let's watch our video on community building.
As human beings, one of the most essential needs we have is the need to belong. In school, children need a sense of belonging to be able to be productive learners. They need to be connected to their fellow students, connected to their teachers, to also be affirmed in who they are in a way that is positive and accepting. In a belonging classroom, there's a community being explicitly built. The teacher knows each child and things about each of those children that they can mention and draw on.
I pay attention, I listen. I'm really invested in what they tell me. The students feeling loved, students feeling nurtured, students feeling like they have a place at school, they're safe. It activates their brain cells.
Sense of belonging is one of the most important activators of a child's engagement in learning. Everything about activating a child's cognitive skills begins with activating their social connectedness. The energy for learning is coming from the social connection that children have.
But in the end, we're trying to come up with an agreement.
Excellent. We're not going to comment, question, we're only going to encourage.
Because they're culturally and linguistically diverse students, I want to really make sure that we are making them feel connections. All the writing we do in our our class. It's very much about them. It helps and promotes them to find their own voice and to share their stories.
Sometimes people think every Muslim person is a target or is a terrorist.
Thank you, Lisa.
What did this show us about what we are good at?
Working together, because like we often argue a lot.
Today, we did an activity that was really designed to get them thinking about how they're gonna support each other. I think that reiterating the idea that we're in this together, I think it's hard to find the time, but doing some team building exercises at the beginning of the year and revisiting them can really help illustrate that point.
In a belonging classroom, they have a community that may meet in classroom meetings to problem solve together, to read stories together, to tell successes and accomplishments or important events together. They celebrate like families do, things that each other have done or have experienced.
Let's talk about what we admire about some of our friends.
I admire Jazara because she is so compassionate.
When we're talking about being compassionate, being supportive of one another, gets to build that deeper connection for everyone, just to feel like this is their school family, this is somewhere they're loved, they're nurtured, they're taken care of, they're valued.
Thank you for speaking. The community becomes a place where you can bring your emotions, your fears, your needs, to be honest about what's going on, and know that there will be acceptance, support, and love that's available to carry you through.
We all can work together and we all can try to strategize together and create a better pathway for others to be successful. And we can make it fun.
They're working together. They take care of each other, not just personally backing up.
We're always pushing each other.
Hammond's, that belonging classroom. Because we all know who top dogs are. So I told you about my kids, my daughter Elizabeth, Goldman Sachs vice president, Amazon vice president, now works for another financial company. She was always A+, and it'd be like, stop, you don't need an A+ on everything. Her brother, on the other hand, did not like school, very successful, he's a positive functioning adult, but school wasn't his jam. Elizabeth loves school. She's now getting a second master's degree. So I have polar opposite kids. Same mom and dad, but that's sometimes how it goes. But a belonging classroom, I look back and Elizabeth had the best teachers, the best group of kids. It's just the way it was. Zach had a lot of teacher turnover in his school, leadership, and a tougher group of kids. So sometimes I think, is that the difference? I don't know. But as a teacher, we can build community and honor the backgrounds of all kids. So what I want to do, taking us up almost to lunchtime, I want you to get in table groups of 5 to 6. Okay, so break up a little bit if you're in a bigger group. And I want you in your group of 5 to 6 to find things you have in common as individuals. And I don't want you to say, oh, well, we all work at Pioneer Elementary and we're all teachers. Nope. I don't want it to be the obvious. Are you outdoor people or indoor people? Do you like music? Do you like to cook? Do you like chocolate or you hate chocolate? Do you have animals? At my house, I have way too many animals, but I love them. Some people don't like animals at all. Okay, so talk about what you have in common outside of this building. Then I would like you in your group to make a banner. So I have some more paper, you still have some white sheets. I don't care if it's this way or this way. In your group of 5 to 6, I want you to select a team name. One was from Aberdeen just a couple weeks ago, and they were the Ambitious Adventurers. They all had surgeries. They all like to travel. They all like the water, outdoors, animals, coaching, athletics, of 5 to 6, team name, and on your banner, what you have in common. It is almost 11:25. Let's take 10 minutes and then we'll come back together and share. Paper?
travel and we dress cozy and comfy.
I know that was the question back here. Do we like kids? Yeah, most days we like kids, right? All right, let's go to the back table.
Oh, 1 second, hold on.
Do you want us to skip you?
Yeah, come back to us.
Okay, all right. How about over here? You're a lone wolf. We're left you to go
Good,
get
young lady,
pizza.
how to go get food.
Yeah, they would too.
We're the cheermeisters, because we like laughing, partying, all types of food, celebrating. We like the country, and country. We like Christmas. We like looking at data. We love our families.
Have data, not make ours.
Playing with animals and all sports.
Nice, thank you. All right, next group.
We are the snackers. We like reading, reality TV, music, chocolate. We very much like our snacks.
Thank
That goes with our five. So we're the 5 C's. So we have Five-ish. We are crazy, we like caffeine, we enjoy chocolate, we all get sick. We're compassionate, we're clever, we're colorful, we love to celebrate, we like children, and we all have had corrective surgery.
We're the glossy girls, and the reason for that is we all actually are sufferers of glossophobia. We have a great sense of humor, and we all love traditions and reading. We love good food and treats. We love games. So that's us. Oh, wait, one more. We all hate cats.
Okay, we're the witty wilderness, so we all like the outdoors, our families, laughing, being creative, comedy, and sarcasm and graphic tees. So we made ours into graphic tees. And so we're the witty wilderness where sarcasm meets s'mores.
Okay, so community building. First of all, things kids have in common. And you'll hear, it's everything from food to sports. But I have heard, oh, I live with my grandma. Yeah, I live with my grandma too. Right, getting to know each other outside of school. Now, I realize in small communities that often kids go all the way through, right? Sometimes by the end, they're almost more like siblings than they really are like friends. But getting to the commonalities and building that community building for all of them. Team name. So you can do this a multitude of ways. Laura Schiffman is a dear friend of mine. Laura changes teams the first of every month. She mixes the kids up. They have a new team name. They have things in common, and then she displays their banners around the classroom. Her colleague, Shari, has a Cricut machine, and she makes the little flags and puts them right on the desk with their team name. That is totally up to you. How often you change teams? Maybe you don't do it every month, maybe you do it trimester, semester, half of the year, whatever works for you. But we're building what they have in common and that safe learning environment. The community building strategies are on pages 29 and 30. So 2 more highly effective research validated strategies to implement in our classroom. Any questions so far of anything we've covered? Okay, let's keep rolling. So we're going to just kind of get our big toe wet up until lunch, and then we'll come back and we'll continue talking about assessment. So our next section, we're going to talk about WIDA guidelines and data review. If I were queen for 8A or a week together, I would give a language assessment to all of our students. Because WIDA assesses all 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And has anyone ever watched a WIDA assessment? It's rigorous. I think in a lot of instances it is far higher rigor than ISAP. So then we have teachers say, why haven't kids exited? Why are they still EL? There's A, B students. It's because it's a tough, tough test. So let's talk about WIDA just a little bit. When we opened, I told you we have 5 levels of language. So we can apply that to multilingual learners, English learners. We can apply that to all of our kids because they are all acquiring language when they come to school. Our level 1 kiddos that entering, there are 1 or 2 word, low vocabulary. Often our striving special ed students, our kids from toxic stress and poverty, present exactly like any EL kiddo. They don't have a lot of oral language fluency. So entering, WIDA gives us the example of brown bear. That could be the response. Level 2 would be beginning. It has clause. Okay, so now we have a complete thought, but not a lot of detail. Then we move to developing, and all kids acquiring language are on the same trajectory. The bear has its fur and sharp claws, okay, complete thought and some added details. Moving to a level 4, expanding. The bear isn't a predator, even though it has sharp claws and teeth. Okay, so now we're shifting to complex and compound thoughts, sentences, with a lot of added details. Level 5, bridging. Before they hibernate for the winter, brown bears give birth to cubs. And then a level 6 would be, you're there, right? You're at the top level in language acquisition. In your appointment, I'd like you to meet with your 9 o'clock partner. And with your 9 o'clock partner, I'd like you to talk about the 3 items at the bottom of the slide. Do you know about the screener? How it's administered? Have you ever seen it? And it's okay if you haven't. Have you ever looked at an access report or watched a student take WIDA? Have you read the report, talked to anyone about it? And then alternate access, you may or may not know about. We'll highlight that in a minute. So meet up with your 9 o'clock partner and just talk about what you know already about WIDA. Go ahead.
I have an articulation
That's the only time I smile. And I don't know what I'm Yes. Let's come back together. Good talk, guys. Okay, so beta assessment. Let's start with the screener. By federal and state law, when a student enrolls, you have 30 calendar days to screen them if they enroll the first day of school. If they come this time of year after the first 30 days, then you have 2 weeks. So calendar days to screen. And kids are assessed in all 4 language domains to see if they qualify. A lot of kindergartners would qualify if we assessed reading and writing, but the first part of the year, they only do listening and speaking. Okay, so that's the screener. If kids qualify, then they are identified by the state as an English learner, which then requires them to participate in Access 2.0. That assessment window opens the last week of January and runs through the first week of March. School districts to use that 30 days to their advantage, because just because a student comes from a bilingual, multilingual home does not mean they necessarily need our help or an intervention. So we really have to think long and hard. If they qualify, what assistance are we going to give them? And are they going to do just fine in a regular classroom? Most kinder firsts are going to do just fine, because you are at a language immersion grade level. Older kids, of course, that rigor, the standards go up, that gets a little tougher. For Access, in that test window, I have seen high school kids take an hour and a half per language domain. So when your kids are taken out to take Access testing, please be compassionate and empathetic and know they're working hard. And that worksheet, does it really need to go home that they missed? Or that assignment, like, think about that. Assessment until they exit. So that can be every year. So if we go back to our levels in Idaho, if you do not exit by the end of 5th grade, you only have a 20% chance from there on out of ever exiting. And that goes down. So no pressure, elementary teachers. But it's because standards and rigor go up. WIDA is based on grade level standards, so they get a core bank of questions on grade level standards, and then it's adaptive. If they answer correctly, it levels them up. If they don't, it levels them down. Then they have to pass all 4 language domains, and you cannot bank a score. They're also in grade level bands. So as they move through the grade levels, all of a sudden you'll see a jump in the difficulty of that assessment. So a lot of kiddos get stuck here in 3 and 4 in Idaho, and they may be AB students. And I've had many a teacher say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know they were an English learner. Why haven't they exited? So we'll talk a little bit more about that after lunch. And then to lead us up to lunch, the other assessment, and right now, as of last Friday, there are 129 identified alternate access students in the state of Idaho. So those would be students who also have an IEP, and in their IEP it is written for alternate assessment, whether that be for IRI, ISAT. Many of these kiddos are cognitively impaired, severely physically impaired, and so that's where an alternate assessment would come in. So from your partners, any ahas and anything you discussed related to WIDA?
I'll just share.
Yeah, go ahead.
But this is something that I came from a school in Utah that we had the meat packing plant, and that was the main employer in that school area, in that boundary. And so a majority of our kids that came were either Latino or Marshallese. So we as classroom teachers, we had to understand both the WIDA test, know how to interpret it, how to read it. We knew the deadlines. And we were lucky because we had 2 certificated ELO teachers, and then we had an army about the size of our Title I of EL, aides. But what our goal was is to treat all of our students as if they were English learners. And we worked with our EL teacher with their goals. We knew where they were at, and we worked to be able to move those students up at least a level each grade so that they were finished and they had tested out by the 5th grade. So, I don't know. I just think it's more than just learning how to speak English. It's so much more. And then it is content, and it's,
Well, that's perfect. That'll be our sick leave when we come back after lunch, because you're exactly right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay.
Real quick though.
Okay.
When you go around, there's a blue backpack in all your rooms. These are the backpacks we told you for evacuations. Put the stuff in for your class. It stays in your room if you ever move. It's got room number on it, so just don't go wondering why there's this blue bag hanging on your door.
Thank you.
Lunch
So-
is served as a lunch.
Lunch is served. Let's come back here at 12:30 and we'll keep rolling. So go take your break, eat,